Well, technology is a tool. It's a tool like any tool. You know, we spoke earlier about the idea of taking a knife and ramming it into somebody's chest. Well, is the knife a tool of healing or a tool of death? Is it a tool of spirituality or a tool of the material world? Well, it depends. If I'm using it to rob you, it's very much a tool of the material world. It's a tool of ignorance. If I'm using it to save your life, or to cut and then feed you a birthday cake, could very much be a tool of love and spirituality. And technology is really the same. Fire is the same, right? I mean, it cooks your food, it burns down houses. Purifies our air, purifies our land. If what it's burning is ghee and camphor, the offerings we put in, burn plastic, it's going to pollute the environment. Fire is just the tool. It's neither a purifier nor a polluter. In the same way, technology is a tool. It all depends on whose hands it goes in. So yeah, you're right. It's being used in many ways in service of the material viewpoint. But it also can be used and is being used in service of the spiritual perspective, because even you take something like social media, let's say. Well, okay, so we can use social media to separate ourselves on lines of religion, on lines of color, on lines of culture, and we can make groups about, you know, our type. Whether it's a religious type, whether it's a color type, whether it's a culture type, whether it's a sexual orientation type, whatever line I want to define myself as, we can make a group based on that. And then we can start fighting with other groups or claiming superiority over other groups, rallying our people to kill people of other groups, I mean, depending on whatever we want to do with that. But similarly, we could use it as a way to break those. We could use it as a way to reach out to people. I mean, the fun thing with it is when you do, advertisements and stuff, you get to choose. Reach out to the people who are as different from you as possible. Reach out to people in all the different parts of the world. I mean, you could really do whatever you want with it. You could use it as a tool of oneness. It's being used as a tool of getting teachings to people all over the world. So technology itself is just the tool. Like right now, for example, we'll take a very specific personal example. These guys, assuming that the internet's on and assuming that everything's working, are streaming what's happening here live online. Now, people in other parts of the world who are online could be online shopping. They could be online buying pornography. Or they could be online joining into satsang. All through technology. It's just a tool. Subject like any tool to their own minds. If I've got a violent frame of mind, that knife is going to be used to rob you or kill you. If I'm someone looking for pornography, I'm going to look for it online. And if I'm someone looking for oneness and spirituality, I'm going to look for it online. The same way that I'm living in my offline life, the same way that I'm living without that technology, is going to be the same way that I live with it. The only very last point that I want to mention on this, the thing that worries me deeply and dearly about it, is that we have gotten very, very, very addicted and very accustomed to life being on a screen. And I realized this a few months ago. I actually wrote an article on this where I was speaking at an event and they had screens on the side. I mean, this is very common. But this particular event, for whatever reason, the organizers had decided to leave the lights on in the audience. Frequently, when it's a big hall, they'll dim the lights. You know, lights are on the stage, off in the audience. Here, the lights were on in the audience. And the audience was seated around a whole bunch of round tables. It was a big banquet hall, very, very close to the stage. Now, when I speak, I don't speak from notes. I speak from inside. And the way that it works is I make eye contact with people, you know, and there's a connection, there's an interaction, and that's what flows. And I look out, the room is brightly lit and people are, you know, not quite as close as you are, but maybe as close as you are from me, so not far at all. And I can't make eye contact with anyone. Why? Because every single person is staring at my reflection on one of these two screens. Now, that would make sense if you were sitting way over on the side, or if you were way in the back and you couldn't see me. But I'm talking people who are front row center, are straining their necks. Right? I mean, the most obvious thing to do is look straight ahead, and there I am standing there. You could see me in the flesh. But instead, they're straining their necks to see me on this side or that side. And it really made me realize how habituated we've become to seeing life on a screen, and how addictive the screens have become to the point where even when the live person is standing right in front of you, we now prefer, neurologically, the projection on the screen. And that worries me. It worries me about our families. It worries me about our relationships. It worries me about how quickly we have given up really the most important thing in life, which is connection. I mean, we all know what it's like to have a conversation with someone who's, yeah, what did you say? Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah, This has become the norm. And it's interesting because it's become so socially acceptable. 20 years ago, if someone walked around with a book, I mean, I used to love, when I was growing up, I used to love reading Agatha Christie and all sorts of, you know, mystery books. And there were times when all I wanted to do was go back home or back to my room and finish the book. But you would never dare, like, move through the world reading your book and saying to people, yeah, you keep talking, no problem, I'm just going to keep reading my book. You would never dare going to dinner with people and sitting at a table with someone who was talking to you and finishing your murder mystery. I mean, even as a young person, even, you know, as a teenager, you could have said, oh, well, she's just a kid. Even at that age, there was no way that was going to be socially acceptable behavior. But today, it's become so common that we treat it as normal. We've grown absolutely used to having conversations with people who are doing the equivalent of finishing their murder mystery. They're not with you. And this worries me. It worries me about how quickly we have adapted to not looking into people's eyes, to not having full conversations, to saying things to people like, don't call, just text me. Just the other day, somebody was talking, I can't remember who it was. They were referring to somebody and they were saying, oh, well, yeah, you have to just text her. She never answers her phone. And, okay, this has become really normal. There's a lot of people in the world like this. This has become socially acceptable behavior. Why are you calling? Why didn't you text? This is a societal change that has taken place in less than a generation. We've gone from picking up the phone and calling people to actually preferring a text message. We've gone from looking at people to preferring a screen. And that's what worries me about technology. But again, it's our minds. It's not technology's fault. We've had screens for, not quite 100 years, but almost, maybe 100 years. We've had movies, we've had TVs, we've had screens. But as technology has gotten better, our minds have volunteered themselves up to be co-opted by it. And that worries me.